Starbucks, an American coffee company and coffee house chain, has been the subject of multiple controversies. In October 2012, Starbucks faced criticism after a Reuters investigation found that the company reportedly paid only $8.6 million in corporation tax in the UK over 14 years, despite generating over $3 billion in sales. This included no tax payments on $1.3 billion of sales in the 3 years prior to 2012. It is alleged that Starbucks was able to do this by charging high licensing fees to the UK branch of the business, allowing them to declare a $33 million loss in 2011. The UK subsidiary pays patent fees to the US subsidiary, purchases coffee beans from the Netherlands subsidiary, where corporation tax is lower than in the UK, and uses the Swiss subsidiary for other miscellaneous services. A YouGov survey suggested that Starbucks' brand image was substantially weakened by the controversy surrounding how much tax it pays in the UK several weeks after the allegations surfaced. Starbucks' Chief Financial Officer, CFO, appeared before the Public Accounts Committee in November 2012 and admitted that the Dutch government granted a special tax rate to their European headquarters, which the UK business pays royalties to. Dutch law permits companies to transfer royalties collected from other countries to tax havens without incurring taxes, unlike in the rest of the EU. The CFO denied that they chose the Netherlands as their European headquarters to avoid tax, explaining that the company's Dutch coffee roasting plant was the reason for the decision. Until 2009. The royalty rate was 6% of UK sales, but after being challenged by UK tax authorities it was reduced to 4.7%. The CFO told the committee this reflected costs such as designing new stores and products, but admitted that there was no detailed analysis by which the rate is decided. The coffee they serve in the UK is purchased from the Swiss subsidiary, which charges a 20% markup on the wholesale price and pays 12% corporation tax on profits. Coffee is not transported to Switzerland, but the 30 people who work in the subsidiary assess coffee quality. Regarding Starbucks' frequent reports of loss in the UK, the CFO told the committee that Starbucks are not at all pleased about their financial performance in the UK. MPs replied that it just doesn't ring true that the business made a loss, pointing out that the head of the business had been promoted to a new post in the US and they consistently told shareholders that the business was profitable. In Ireland, Starbucks subsidiary Rydia only paid $35,000 in tax between 2005 and 2011, and the subsidiary recorded losses in every year other than 2011. Rydia is owned by Netherlands-based Starbucks Coffee EMEA. Their French and German subsidiaries make large losses because they are heavily in debt to the Dutch subsidiary, which charges them higher interest rates than the group pays to borrow. Reuters calculated that without paying interest on the loans and royalty fees, the French and German subsidiaries would have paid $3.4 million in tax. The Dutch subsidiary that royalties are paid to made a $507,000 profit in 2011 from revenues of $73 million, while the company that roasts coffee made a profit of $2 million in 2011 and paid tax of $870,000. Protesters, who were unimpressed by the company's offer to pay $20 million in tax over the next 2 years, staged demonstrations in December 2012 in affiliation with UK Uncut. In June 2014, the European Commission antitrust regulator launched an investigation of the company's tax practices in the Netherlands, as part of a wider probe of multinational companies' tax arrangements in various European countries. The investigation ended in October 2015, with the EC ordering Starbucks to pay up to $30 million in overdue taxes, which the EC regards as illegal state support for corporations. A pair of economists from the KU Leuven noted that the Commission did not forbid Starbucks tax construction as such, pretending that Starbucks is a Dutch company and effectively rewarding the Dutch state for its lenient tax policy. Labor dispute Starbucks workers in 7 stores have joined the Industrial Workers of the World, IWW, as the Starbucks Workers Union since 2004. In line with the Starbucks Union press release, since then, the union membership has begun expanding to Chicago and Maryland in addition to New York City, where the movement originated. On March 7, 2006, the IWW and Starbucks agreed to a National Labor Relations Board settlement in which 3 Starbucks workers were granted almost $2,000 in back wages and 2 fired employees were offered reinstatement. According to the Starbucks Union, on November 24, 2006, IWW members picketed Starbucks locations in more than 50 cities around the world in countries including Australia, Canada, Germany, and the UK, as well as US cities including New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, and San Francisco, to protest the firing of 5 Starbucks workers' union organizers by Starbucks and to demand their reinstatement. Some Starbucks baristas in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and the United States belong to a variety of unions. In 2005, Starbucks paid out $165,000 to 8 employees at its Kent, Washington, roasting plant to settle charges that they had been retaliated against for being pro-union. At the time, the plant workers were represented by the International Union of Operating Engineers. Starbucks admitted no wrongdoing in the settlement. A Starbucks strike occurred in Auckland, New Zealand, on November 23, 2005. Organized by Unite Union, workers sought secure hours, a minimum wage of $12 an hour, and the abolition of youth rates. The company settled with the union in 2006, resulting in pay increases, increased security of hours, and an improvement in youth rates. In March 2008, Starbucks was ordered to pay baristas over $100 million in back tips in a Californian class action lawsuit launched by baristas alleging that granting shift supervisors a portion of tips violates state labor laws. The company plans to appeal. Similarly, an 18-year-old barista in Chestnut Hill, Ma has filed another suit with regards to the tipping policy. Massachusetts law also states that managers may not get a cut of tips. A similar lawsuit was also filed in Minnesota on March 27, 2008. Starbucks has been accused by local authorities of opening several stores in the UK in retail premises, without the planning permission for a change of use to a restaurant. Starbucks has argued that under current planning law, there is no official classification of coffee shops. Starbucks, therefore, encounters the difficult scenario whereby local authorities interpret the guidance in different ways. In some instances, coffee shops operate under A1 permission, some as mixed-use A1/A3 and some as A3. In May 2008, a branch of Starbucks was completed on St. James's Street in Kemptown, Brighton, England, despite having been refused permission by the local planning authority, Brighton and Hove City Council, who said there were too many coffee shops already present on the street. Starbucks appealed the decision by claiming it was a retail store selling bags of coffee, mugs, and sandwiches, gaining a 6-month extension, but the council ordered Starbucks to remove all tables and chairs from the premises, to comply with planning regulations for a retail shop. 2,500 residents signed a petition against the store, but after a public inquiry in June 2009, a government inspector gave permission for the store to remain. A Starbucks in Hertford won its appeal in April 2009 after being open for over a year without planning permission. 2 stores in Edinburgh, 1 in Manchester, 1 in Cardiff, 1 in Pinner and Harrow, were also opened without planning permission. The Pinner Cafe, opened in 2007, won an appeal to stay open in 2010. 1 in Blackheath Village, Lewisham was also under investigation in 2002 for breach of its license, operating as a restaurant when it only had a license for 4 seats and was limited to takeaway options. There was a considerable backlash from members of the local community who opposed any large chains opening in what is a conservation area. To this date, the Starbucks is still operating as a takeaway outlet. Gun controversy as gun laws in many U.S. states have become more relaxed, and more states have adopted open carry or concealed carry statutes. Some gun owners have begun carrying guns while performing everyday shopping or other tasks. Many stores and companies have responded by banning the carrying of guns on their premises, as allowed by many states' local laws. Starbucks has not instituted an official policy banning guns in their stores. In 2010, the Brady campaign proposed a boycott of Starbucks due to their gun policy. At that time, Starbucks released a statement saying, "We comply with local laws and statutes in all the communities we serve. That means we abide by the laws that permit open carry in 43 U.S. states. Where these laws don't exist, openly carrying weapons in our stores is prohibited." The political, policy and legal debates around these issues belong in the legislatures and courts, not in our stores. In 2012, the National Gun Victims Action Council published an open letter to Starbucks, asking them to revise their policy, and also proposed a brew not bullets boycott of the chain until the policy is changed, with Valentine's Day selected as a particular day to boycott the chain. In response, gun rights advocates started a counter-Starbucks Appreciation Day boycott to support Starbucks' stance, and suggested paying for products using $2 bills as a sign of Second Amendment support. On July 29, 2013, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America initiated a petition demanding a ban on guns in Starbucks stores. On September 17, 2013, founder and CEO Howard Schultz asked customers to no longer bring guns into its stores. He made the comments in an open letter on the company's website. Schultz said he was not banning guns. There have been calls for boycott of Starbucks stores and products because it has been wrongly claimed that Starbucks sends part of its profits to the Israeli military, but such allegations are based on a hoax letter attributed to the president, chairman, and CEO of Starbucks Howard Schultz, who is Jewish and supports Israel's right to exist. He is a recipient of several Israeli awards including the Israel 50th Anniversary Tribute Award for playing a key role in promoting a close alliance between the United States and Israel. The hoax letter claiming that Schultz had donated money to the Israeli military was actually written by an Australian weblogger, Andrew Winkler, who has admitted fabricating the document. Starbucks responded to these claims, widely circulated on the internet, stating that neither Chairman Howard Schultz nor Starbucks Fund supports the Israeli army. Starbucks is a non-political organization and does not support individual political causes. The protests against Starbucks derived from the Winkler letter were not the first. Earlier protests occurred in June 2002 in Cairo, Dubai, and Beirut universities in response to Schultz's criticism of Yasser Arafat. Starbucks has been a regular target of activists protesting against Israel's role in the Gaza war over the claims. Although the claim of support was published on the official Starbucks website, which was later removed. Organizations have urged a boycott of Starbucks, accusing Starbucks of serving as an ally of Israeli militarists. Starbucks was forced to close a store in Beirut, Lebanon due to demonstrators shouting anti-Israel slogans and causing customers to flee. Demonstrators hung several banners on the shop's window and used white tape to paste a Star of David over the green and white Starbucks sign. They also distributed a letter saying, "Schultz is one of the pillars of the American Jewish lobby and the owner of the Starbucks, which they said donates money to the Israeli military." On January 2009, two Starbucks stores in London were the target of vandalism by pro-Palestinian demonstrators who broke windows and reportedly ripped out fittings and equipment after clashes with riot police. Starbucks, which previously operated locations in Israel, under a partnership with Delic Group of Israel, stated that they did not close the Israeli locations due to political reasons, but due to market challenges. Starbucks has closed a coffee house in China's former imperial palace, the company said, ending a presence that prompted protests by Chinese critics who said it damaged a major historical site. The controversy over Starbucks at the 587-year-old Forbidden City in Beijing has highlighted Chinese sensitivity about cultural symbols and unease over an influx of foreign popular culture. Starbucks closed. The outlet, which covered about 19 square meters, or 200 square feet, on Friday after managers of the Forbidden City decided that they wanted all shops on its grounds to operate under the palace's brand name, said Eden Woon, the Starbucks vice president for Greater China. "It was a very congenial decision. We respect what they are doing," Woon said. The Starbucks store opened in 2000 at the invitation of palace managers, who needed to raise money to maintain the 72-hectare, or 178-acre, complex of villas and gardens. But critics said the move was inappropriate. An anchor for Chinese state television led an online protest, saying the coffee house diminished Chinese culture. Starbucks was offered the option of becoming part of a combined outlet with other beverage brands all sold under the Palace Museum brand name, according to Woon and Chinese news reports, which cited the palace's vice president, Li Wenru. There were several choices, one of which was to continue, but it would not carry the Starbucks name anymore, Woon said. "It is not our custom worldwide to have stores that have any other name, so therefore we decided the choice would be to leave." The Forbidden City was home to 24 emperors before the dynastic system ended in 1911. It is China's top tourist attraction, drawing about 7 million visitors a year. Other businesses there include bookstores, souvenir shops, and Chinese-style tea houses. The palace is in the midst of a renovation, due to last through 2020, to restore its imperial-era appearance. That includes removing a 5-story archive museum and toning down commercial symbols. The number of shops on its grounds has been cut from 37 to 17, according to state media. Those businesses that remain in the Forbidden City must carry out reforms, the Beijing Daily quoted Li, the vice president, as saying. It gave no details. Starbucks was a popular resting spot for visitors but attracted criticism from the start. Starbucks, one of the most popular coffee franchises across the world, on January 29, 2017 announced a plan to hire 10,000 refugees over 5 years in the 75 countries where it operates. As soon as the announcement was made, the critics immediately came out in force. However, this isn't the first time that Starbucks has courted controversy. A few years ago, there was an unholy uproar when the coffee giant released plain-looking, religion-free Christmas cups. The unanimous voice of the critics echoed that Starbucks should have instead announced a plan to hire American veterans. Maybe these critics should have done their research before calling all Americans to boycott Starbucks because the brand is known to hire American veterans. In 2013, the coffee giant announced a commitment to hire 10,000 veterans by the end of 2018, in essence, the exact same commitment that CEO Howard Schultz made about hiring refugees. So far, Starbucks says that it has hired more than 8,000 veterans and military spouses. However, what's to be noted is that the announcement was made soon after President Trump's executive order that prohibited people from some Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States of America. In the past, Schultz has been vocal about his political stance. He openly endorsed Democrat Hillary Clinton as he would have been the latter's choice for Secretary of Labor had she won the elections. In a letter to Starbucks employees, Schultz wrote, "We are living in an unprecedented time, one in which we are witness to the conscience of our country, and the promise of the American dream, being called into question." This gave rise to further backlash by Trump supporters on Twitter, who questioned why Starbucks wouldn't consider hiring unemployed Hispanics and African Americans instead of refugees. Some others stated that there are 100 million people out of work and Starbucks instead chose to hire 10,000 refugees. However, it wasn't all gloomy for the coffee giant. There were just as many people defending Starbucks' move as they came out in support of the coffee chain. The hashtags #BoycottStarbucks and #BuyStarbucks were trending all day on Twitter immediately following the announcement. Soon after, Starbucks released a letter from market research firm Kantar Millward Brown which stated that it had administered an ongoing monthly measurement of Starbucks consumer sentiment and brand perceptions towards the brand and saw no negative ramification in February 2017. They further stated that there was no impact whatsoever on future visitation intent, customer consideration, or any other key performance metrics for the Starbucks brand. Even after all this uproar, the company stuck to its stance and said that it would complete its veteran hiring target sooner than expected and that they would continue hiring more.
I done been around the world, ain't nobody else that could do it like us with nobody help. When the chips about to fall and I'm back against the wall, know it's only one place I call, all roads lead home.